Welcome back to another Blue Jackets game reaction. This one for Game 40 that took place in Philadelphia last night, where the Jackets got a surprising comeback win over a surprisingly in the playoffs team in the Flyers, another John Tortorella coached squad who, didn't have a lot of expectations from outsiders, really insider fans heading into the season, finding themselves in a good position as of right now. They came back from being down 2-0 in the third period with Johnny Gaudreau's goal in the shootout being enough to get the extra point as Tear-asov put an exclamation point on what was an already impressive game for him with 3 shootout saves. Before the game, a bit of a statement by John Tortorella with the roster moves, making Cam Atkinson a healthy scratch for this one, Atkinson being a healthy scratch against his former team. Cam Atkinson's game has been non-existent lately. I was kind of a little surprised to see just how much so. He hasn't scored since, I think, November 11th or the first half of November or something wild like that. And Cam Atkinson is a guy who, him and Torts really like each other, and it feels like whenever Torts does his, hard-nosed coach act of sending a message to the team, it does feel like Cam Atkinson has kind of avoided that wrath for a while, but at this point, the fact that Cam Atkinson did see some kind of reprimanding from John Tortorella, I think that does say a lot about how his game has been as of late. So I think that's Torts just trying to put a spark plug in Atkinson's game lately, but that led to the Flyers going with an 11 forward, 7 defenseman lineup. For the Blue Jackets, Chinakhov and Provorov were both game-time decisions. Both played in this game seemingly without issue. And also before the game, the All-Star roster was announced for the NHL, at least in the Eastern Conference at least. Each team getting one representative guaranteed. For Philadelphia, that would be Travis Konechny, who had a pretty good game against the Jackets that I'll get into. And for Columbus, it was Boone Jenner, which, he certainly deserves it, even though he's currently injured right now. He was very, very productive for the Blue Jackets this season when he was able to play. I just feel like the same about him being selected as an all-star as to him being the de facto top-line center, where Boone Jenner certainly deserves all the praise and accolades that he gets, but I do feel like it is a little bit disappointing that the Jackets have not found, or nobody else on the roster has stepped up to take that spot away from Boone Jenner, right? Where if I keep hearing the phrase like, oh, on a contender, he's probably lower in the lineup, and I feel like that is probably true, but for Columbus, he's been perfect as a captain, and he's done as much as you could ask for as a top-line center could. And again, that kind of is a detriment to the rest of the roster that no one is been able to really take his spot at this point. But as far as Boone Jenner goes, he's been pretty much what Columbus has asked for and more. So back to the game from last night. The first period starts a little bit sleepy with Philadelphia coming off of a road trip and Columbus falling victim to the Flyers and John Tortorella's style of play of getting really just caught in a defensive struggle. Then late in the period, the Jackets were unable to clear the zone. That led to some panic with Farabee finding a wide open and connecting on the doorstep. Nothing Tear-asov was able to do there except to watch it go in for a 1-0 lead for the Flyers. Then Philadelphia had a golden opportunity to increase that lead late in the first period, getting a power play and then a 5-on-3 for a full 2 minutes after a Justin Danforth face-off violation. But the Jackets were able to kill it off thanks to, some great efforts from Cole Sillinger early in that kill, and also Daniil Tear-asov making some really key saves on that 2-man advantage for Philadelphia. Also helps that the Flyers have had the worst power play in the NHL up to this point. That power play, I guess it's not just a Columbus problem with John Tortorella. It's just Tortorella's power plays have never really been all that productive throughout most of his coaching career. Columbus goes into the locker room in the first period, happy to only be down by just 1 goal at the first intermission. Then the Jackets went into the second looking for an answer, but none would be found in the middle 20 minutes. In fact, in my opinion, they looked even worse than they did in the middle frame than they did in the first period. They did get a couple of power plays, but the Flyers on that penalty kill, they seem to get more chances shorthanded than Columbus did on the advantage, with the Jackets also getting a power play in that first period that looked just as bad, just as feckless as the two in the second period did. With the Flyers, I think they were tied for the lead in shorthanded goals headed into this game, and the only reason that they didn't improve on that was because Daniil Tear-asov on his game once again. So it looks like that crazy game he had against Buffalo, not a fluke, at least for now, where it's back-to-back really solid performances from the young goaltender. He was pretty much the only reason the second period stayed scoreless. Columbus ended the second period by negating their own power play with a Severson tripping penalty. So to start the third, we had a little bit of 4-on-4 before a slightly shortened power play for Philadelphia. No score there for the Flyers with this one. So with a little bit more than 15 to go in regulation, Farabee found Konechny once again streaking into the Jackets zone, who went backhand all alone on Tear-asov and was able to score. Was absolutely blasted by Eric Branson on that play. He hit the ice hard, but he was still able to put the puck in the net to increase the Flyers' lead to 2-0. Once again, it was Konechny from Farabee and Couturier. That was the second goal. That was exactly like that, where the first assist was Farabee, second assist was Couturier and Konechny putting the puck in the net. Felt like another game where 2-0 with more than 15 minutes to go shouldn't feel out of reach, but it kind of did in this situation, where it felt like another game where a 2-goal lead might as well have been a 20-goal lead. But just a little bit less than a minute later, Fantilli got into the zone, created a little bit of space to find Damon Severson, who blasted a shot past Ersson from distance to make it 2-1. So right back to where we were. Jake Christensen getting his first NHL point of the season. More on him at the tail end of this video. Columbus really starting to attack at this point, and slightly after halfway through the third period, a Roslovic shot went off of Jake Bean's stick to fool Ersson again, tying the game at 2 apiece. I mean, I say fool Ersson, but really it was just kind of a good bounce, and it found its way into the back of the net. So Columbus, they felt in control after that, getting a good bit of momentum, obviously. A power play that generated chances, even though it didn't score. It was definitely the best power play of the night for the Jackets. Johnny Gaudreau hitting a post. I feel like Kent Johnson had a couple of good chances late in regulation as well, but the Jackets, they do enough to force overtime after being down 2 in the third period. Kent Johnson hit a post in the overtime. He was flying around in the late stages of the game despite not getting any points out of it. He was definitely very noticeable on the ice when the time started to wind down a little bit. So after a scoreless overtime, it was on to the shootout with Johnny Gaudreau making his first shot, and then Daniil Tear-asov denying Couturier, Brink, and Forster. No Konechny attempt, which was a little bit odd. Konechny was having a really good game, and I remember when Torts was coaching in Columbus, where he was asked about his shootout, kind of how does he determine who goes in the shootout, and Torts just kind of said, well, like I choose whoever I think is having a good game. I remember one time Max Domi for Columbus got an attempt in a bit of an odd spot, and Domi was having a pretty good game, so Torts threw him out there. I'm surprised that same kind of mentality didn't really apply with Konechny, but I guess that's something for the Flyers fan base to worry about. But the Jackets, they get a win. We'll see if it builds momentum tomorrow in Minnesota as they take on the Wild. I would love to say that I'm confident in the ability for the Jackets to keep momentum from game to game, but so far this season they haven't really given me reason to put a lot of faith on positive results for the Blue Jackets either way. Although some good injury news, Adam Boqvist likely to draw back in after suffering a shoulder sprain. Pascal Vincent saying he's good to go. Jake Christensen has been called back to the Cleveland Monsters, so at least he got to get an NHL point before getting sent back to the AHL. It's too bad he got hurt when he did, as Adam Boqvist was starting to produce at a pretty good level offensively. He's the type of player where I wouldn't really be surprised if it took him a little bit of time to get back to playing with that sort of offensive edge that he was, and maybe he'll have to shake off a little bit of rust and go through some struggles, but hopefully I'm wrong, and it's a bit of a seamless transition for Adam Boqvist as he draws back into the lineup very likely tomorrow against Minnesota. But that's going to do it for me in this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you didn't make it this far into it, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and like to see more like it. You can let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this game against Philadelphia and how they could expand upon that against the Wild and in the season in general. But once again, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far into the video, and I will see you at the next one.